The world is a fascinating place, filled with tons of different organisms that each have their own story. Today, we will be learning about 10 fascinating organisms. First off, we have Hericium. This little guy is a fungus, and has been used since ancient times for medicinal purposes in traditional Chinese medicine. Modern analysis of this fungus suggests anti-cancer and neuroprotective benefits of consumption. Most of the time, you'll see these guys chilling on tree trunks or fallen trees and logs. It's also called lion's mane, but I really think it just looks like a big beard. Next up is Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. This monster fungus is also known as the zombie ant fungus. It is a parasitic fungus that infects the brain of ants, ultimately gaining control of their bodily functions. The ants are then made to climb up nearby plants before the fungi finishes them off. After the ant is dead, the stalk of the fungi starts to grow out of the dead body of the ant before releasing its spores to infect the next unfortunate victim. It only takes a matter of days for the fungus to fully infect and take over the ant's body. Moving on, we have Amanita muscaria. Now, this red mushroom with white spots has an incredible story. Amanita muscaria, also known as fly agaric, is the inspiration behind Christmas. Let me explain. Back in olden times, Northern European and Asiatic shamans would include these mushrooms in their rituals as a hallucinogen. Every year, when winter solstice rolled around, a collection of these mushrooms were essential to their celebrations and ceremonies. The shamans would wear special clothes to go out and gather these mushrooms, and those clothes were red with white trim and black boots. Starting to sound familiar yet? Well, they also collected the mushrooms in a big sack. Once they were done getting their hard-earned drug shrooms, they would head back to their tents, climb in from the smoke hole, and spread the cheer of drugs to all their friends. What preceded would be a joyous night of festivities and miraculous visions that would come from the portal to another dimension, also known as a smoke hole. The mushrooms would give people's faces a rosy red flush, even furthering the correlation between Christmas. Reindeer have also been found to have quite an appetite for intoxicating mushrooms. Even today, many people decorate the hearth and tree with cranberries and mushrooms. And so now, whenever you celebrate Christmas, just remember that you'll never do it right unless you're tripping on mushrooms. Moving on from our fungi friends, now we're going to talk about plants for a bit. The first one being Victoria amazonica, a gigantic lily pad-looking plant with leaves that can reach 4 to 6 feet long. These floating giants are a flowering plant, with flowers the size of soccer balls, which kind of smell like butterscotch and pineapple. The flowers use energy to heat up on the inside, which attracts nearby beetles. If it is an 85-degree day outside, then the inside of the flower can be up to 95 degrees. These plants also have sharp spikes on the underside of their leaves and on the stem to ward off any herbivores foolish enough to take a bite. The huge leaves also serve to block sunlight from the surrounding underwater area, meaning no competition or algae bringing pesky insects to the plant. And now we have Dicksonia antarctica. This towering plant is an evergreen tree fern that is partial to moist and cool areas, such as mountainside forests or creek beds. They can grow as tall as 49 feet tall, with leaves that can create a canopy up to 20 feet long. This plant also propagates by spreading out its spores. Do you have a green thumb? Well, you're in luck, because these bad boys are easy to grow and are even edible. The tissue in the stems are a great source of starch. Now we have one of my favorite plants of all time, the ginkgo biloba. The ginkgo biloba is one of the oldest living tree species on Earth, and they can live up to 3,000 years old. Some scientists suspect it to be close to immortal, while most of the deaths of the trees are being due to accidental occurrences, such as pests or droughts. Ginkgo trees are huge in the medicinal market, as people use it for dementia, eye problems, tinnitus, and others. But there is no conclusive medical evidence that it really helps with anything at all. These trees are famously pretty, easy to grow, and can grow up to 50 feet tall. And in 2010, a storm uprooted a 1,000-year-old ginkgo tree located next to a Shinto shrine in Kamakura, Japan. Later on, that stump was replanted, and has even started to produce a little bit of leaves. Moving from the realm of plants, we reach the last station of our journey, animals. First off is an animal that looks incredibly cool, but has a sad story, the pangolin. These scaly creatures may fool you at first glance. It's not a reptile, but a mammal. The pangolin uses its scales for defense, as it will curl into a ball when threatened, while the sharp scaled tail can ward off attackers from the rear. The pangolin also can emit a noxious-smelling acid from its glands, kind of like a skunk. These long-tongued mammals eat ants, termites, and larvae, earning it the nickname scaly anteater. Pangolins are also nocturnal, so they have a very good sense of smell and hearing. When a baby pangolin is born, it hitches a ride on their mother's tail until they reach maturity. And as cool as these animals are, they are currently endangered and are subject to a lot of illegal trafficking. Their meat is considered a delicacy, and the scales are used for medicinal purposes in countries like Asia and Africa. And now we have probably one of the coolest looking spiders of all time, Gasteracantha, or the spiny orb weaver. These 8-legged friends have 6 abdominal spines and live in forests and shrubby gardens. The life of a spiny orb weaver is but a simple one. As soon as reproduction is complete, they die. Directly after laying eggs, the female dies, and 6 days after fertilizing the female, the male will die as well. On the bright side, they weave some dope webs, circular in shape and can even have spirals in them. These little guys are a great garden spider as they catch pesky insects that will eat your tomatoes. Coming in with the coolest sounding name on the list, we have Glaucus atlanticus. But the Glaucus atlanticus also has another awesome sounding name, blue dragon. These marine creatures love to float on their backs near the surface of oceans, staying buoyant with the air bubbles located in their stomach. The blue dragon has a double whammy camouflaging functionality. On its back, the side facing down, there are light blues and whites blending in with the surface of the sea, and on the belly, there are dark blues and blacks that blend in with the bottom of the ocean. The blue dragon isn't a venomous creature by nature, but rather extracts stinging cells out of its prey of choice, being the Portuguese man of war, and holds them in a special sac, concentrating the venom to where when it is released, it is several times more potent. They also lay their legs on the carcasses of their prey sometimes, which is a pretty metal thing to do. We now move on to our final organism. The last animal is Eunice aphrodiotis, also known as the bobbit worm. These gigantic marine noodles can grow up to 10 feet long and is one of the most terrifying yet beautiful creatures you'll ever see. The bobbit worm hunts by hiding in the sand with its 5 antennae poking out to detect prey. When an unfortunate soul wanders too close, the bobbit strikes with tremendous speed and power and is known to sometimes split its prey in half. The bobbit worm then takes its prey and retreats to its burrow, where it injects the prey with a toxin to help break it down. These nocturnal creatures are not carnivores, however, but are omnivores and can eat seaweed and other plant material. The bobbit worm got its name from a very unfortunate incident, where a Miss Lorena Bobbitt chopped off half of her husband's most precious place. The photographer that coined the name for this organism must have thought the open jaw pieces resembled scissors, or perhaps that the body of the worm itself resembled something entirely different. Or maybe both. And thus we reach the end of our journey. I hope you learned something interesting and had a good time.